Tonight, the title is Christian Faith versus Godless Physician, as it pertains to our need for medical attention. Who are we supposed to turn to? And it's kind of related to what you saw, Marie, but I just got there in my second Chronicles, Asa. And then, as I started contemplating, it's like, oh my goodness, there might be more to this than...
Oh, for a split.
Yeah, just an isolated story. And years ago, I was reminded of, as I was preparing for this, that Abigail had gone to the dentist. And the dentist there, who wasn't a Christian man, had told us that Abigail would need to have some of her teeth pulled because her teeth were coming in crooked. And I told him, I says, we're going to see what the Lord has to do with this first before we just start jerking teeth. Well, he just sneered at me. And a few months later, he straightened out. And today, that man's not in business in Mineral Wells. He's out. So, as a person nears the end of their days, hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes, of medical bills accumulate. Older people have to go because of their growing medical needs, right? Is this a racket just to get all they can while they have the dollars assigned to their name? My dad struggled with this when he on his last days. $3,000, $3,000 to $4,000 per blood transfusion. Had to have them every 2 or 3 weeks, and they got more necessary the further he got, just to keep his whatever that blood count was, or the count up was hemoglobins, I think it was. Yeah, he was way low, and he just didn't have any energy, so he had to go there. And then all the other medical bills that he had from falling down, and the recurring medical bills from that. And it just seemed like a racket to him, and I wonder if it's not, being charged all that money. Do we, child of God, have to go to the hospital like that? How many elderly people have a hopper full of medicines? Remember that little rectangular case? It says S, M, T, W, T, H, F, and S on it. And they open it up and it's chock full. I knew some older people that said once they got done taking their pills for the morning, they had no appetite for breakfast because they had so many. Who said they need to take all them? The doctor? Did they really need it? There's a need for the flu shot today. Who said we need a flu shot every year? The doctor? Is that doctor a Christian? First of all. Does it matter? Second of all, maybe Christian, it does. But how about Christian doctors? Do they trust God or medicine in their practice? And they may say both, but I bet they trust the medicine and their education more than the other. We're going to read some things in 2 Chronicles, then we're going to go to 2 Kings, and then we're going to go to Kings again, and we're going to see God may have given us a basis for how we handle our medical conditions. 2 Chronicles chapter 16, beginning in verse 11. Second Chronicles chapter 16, verse 11. And behold, the acts of Asa, first and last, lo, they are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Asa, in the 39th year of his reign, was diseased in his feet until his disease was very great. Yet in his disease he sought not the Lord, but the physicians. What does this say here regarding a king in Israel? Got sick. What does it say he did, and what does it say he should have done?
You should have gone to John first, and then went to the physician. Yes, for their first.
Yeah, he went to the physicians.
Not even first. It didn't say he went to the physicians first and then God. It just said he went to the physicians and sought not God.
Yeah, and sought
So
not God.
not even good enough to think of it afterwards and go, oh, I should maybe just pray about that.
It's like it didn't even cross his mind, maybe. Maybe we could... I'm not going to say dogmatically that's what it was. Asa started out as a good king. Asa started out by having some pretty good victories by the presence of the Lord in his life. So he wasn't unknowledgeable about the value of God involved in his own personal life. But here he is at the end of his life. And so I don't know if he thought, God, prayer, physician. Did it not even cross his mind? He just needed to go to the physician. Let me ask another suggestion here. It is the Old Testament, right? Might it be because the physicians of the day were just a bunch of snake oil salesmen? I mean, after all, Asa didn't get cured. He went to the physicians. They prescribed whatever they prescribed. He died with the disease. It didn't work. So maybe it's in the Old Testament during a time when medicine wasn't advanced. Well, we have another situation that what was prescribed didn't work. We find it forward to when Jesus was walking. The woman who had an issue of blood. She had wasted or used up her resources and her options, avenues to find a cure for that. They couldn't help her. Was it because medicines were not advanced in her day either? So could this be a time of history when medicine hadn't advanced as much, and that's why the counsel was given? Let me ask you this. If medicine was advanced to where it is today, would God have advised Asa differently? What was Asa, per these verses, supposed to do? He was supposed to seek the Lord. That's what it says. It says, he sought not the Lord, but the physicians. Is this still for God's children today? But is it today in advanced medicine different? Would this be rewritten if it was in the New Testament, like the book of Ephesians, or the book of, like, later John? 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, all written in 90 AD. Those are the oldest records we have. If we were to be today, would we consider this old counsel? And if this were rewritten in scriptures today, present day, it would say rather, Asa in the 39th year of his reign was diseased in his feet, and he went and sought the physicians without saying anything about seeking the Lord. Would that be how it's rewritten? I don't think so. You know, this isn't the only time this happened. Let's go to 2 Kings. It's before Chronicles. 2 Kings chapter 1. Beginning in verse 2. And Ahaziah fell down through a lattice in his upper chamber that was in Samaria, and was sick. And his messengers said unto them, and he sent messengers and said unto them, Go inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, whether I should recover from this disease. Okay, so he was sick, and he went to those who were probably known to be able to give cures for his disease. At least he had some sort of measure of hope in them from that. I mean, he had to know this from somewhere, right? But, verse 3, the angel of the Lord said to Elijah. This is the finale of Elijah right here. Shortly thereafter, chapter 2, we start getting into Elisha. But this is Elijah, the Tishbite. Arise, go up to meet the messenger of the king of Samaria, and say to them, Is it because there is not a God in Israel that you go to inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron? Therefore, thou therefore, thus saith the Lord, Thou shalt not come down from the bed to which thou art gone, you will surely die. And Elijah departed. Again, was this a no-no simply because it was in Old Testament times, because ancient medical practice were only snake oil? So it would be okay today simply go to the godless physicians for a cure? You know what I saw was interesting in this, as God brought to mind the second one? Asa was king of who?
Judah, wasn't he?
Judah, by the way. Ahaziah was king of who? Israel 10. So when you put those two together, both of them having illnesses, both of them not seeking the Lord, but going to the godless ones that would give prescription, in the Old Testament, it comprises the entire chosen ones of God. Completely. Doesn't matter whether you're walking in the wrong way of life or the right way of life, they did it wrong. Wow. You know, there's another Old Testament example that did it right. Hezekiah. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 20. In those days was Hezekiah sick unto death. Hezekiah had an illness. There's a bunch of sores on his body we see later because he told him to get boils, put them on sores. Isaiah told him, get your house in order, you're going to die. King was feeling puny. Here was Isaiah saying, you're going to die. What did Hezekiah... Oh, let's read the rest of the verse. And the prophet Isaiah, the son of Amoz, came to him and said to him, thus saith the Lord, set your house in order, for you will die and not live. This was an illness. You know how you see in older people sometimes when they go into the hospital and they come out and you can tell they're not quite the same? And you get this sneaking suspicion they won't really quite bounce back to the way they were before. Right now, still in my age that I'm at right now, most of the things that I endure, I have a hope that I will figure out and pretty much stem it off, curb it off. I still have that hope. I'm still working on most of those, and most of those are reliable and true. When you're younger, you get really hurt up, ached up and stuff, and what you do is you get over it. It just goes away after a while, and then but when you get older, you see some of these things that kind of linger on. Well, when you get older yet, you see someone who has a step back medically, and they find themselves in the hospital, and then the next time you see them, it's like, ooh, they don't look good. We have some of our mowing customers like that. We have a lot of older mowing customers. Not say a lot. There's not a lot, but several older mowing customers. And we've been mowing for them for years. And then all of a sudden, they get to a point where like, ooh, it could be their skin is more pale than we really noticed before. And maybe they're just more gaunt than they were before. And it's like, they turned into a new chapter of her life that was that much closer to not being on this side of the grave any longer. Maybe Hezekiah looked like that. Maybe God just told Isaiah that he's going to die. Get your house in order. In any case, he was sick unto death. Now remember what the other two kings did? The other two kings sought the physicians, not the Lord, went across the border, but did not seek the Lord. What does Hezekiah do? Verse 2. Then he turned his face to the wall and prayed unto the Lord, I beseech thee, O Lord, remember now how I have walked before you in truth with a perfect heart and have done that which is good in thy sight. And Hezekiah wept very much. He sought the Lord. Exactly what the other two were reproved for not doing. But this is Old Testament, right? This is the Old Testament. Medicine is still not advanced yet. Would it have been okay for him to seek the physicians like today instead of the advanced medicine that might have been available? The question I'm asking in all this, do we need to seek the Lord first? And the resounding answer may be today, no. What was God's answer to Hezekiah, having sought the Lord? Verse 4, 2 Kings chapter 20. And it came to pass before Isaiah was gone out into the middle of the court that the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, Return, tell Hezekiah, the captain of my people, thus saith the Lord, the God of David thy father, I have heard thy prayer, I have seen thy tears. Behold, I will heal thee. On the third day you will go up into the house of the Lord. And I will add unto thy days 15 years, and I will deliver thee in this city out of the hand of the king of Assyria, and I will defend this city for my own sake and for my servant David's sake. And Isaiah said, Take a lump of figs, and they took and laid it on the boil, and he recovered. You know what I see as amazing in this? I never knew that Hezekiah was also a doctor. Was Hezekiah a doctor? There's no evidence anywhere that he had taken up medicine and was a Luke in the New Testament. But he was a man of God. He was a child of God. And he was used of God to heal another one who had sought the face of God. And guess what? It was a successful remedy. Even when arguably Hezekiah, after second thought, might have held short of that prayer, seeing that Manasseh was born and 55 years of one of the worst kings in Judah reigned. Still, God healed him because he sought the Lord, and God, through a man less than qualified, but a child of God, gave a successful remedy. You want to know something? This isn't the only time an unqualified child of God suggested a remedy from God that saved people's lives. Can you remember the other one? Moving forward, New Testament.
Are you talking about Jesus and the spit?
No. I was talking about Paul sailing to Rome in Acts. Acts chapter 27.
Was Hezekiah the one that said, that God said, your kingdom's going to be torn afterwards? And he said, well, at least it's not me, it's my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was.
Acts what chapter?
27. Remember, this is after Paul. Of course, it's toward the end of Acts. You know, it's going to be Paul in the end of the actual historical record of Paul in his journeys. Chapter 27, verse 1. When it was determined that we should sail into Italy, they delivered Paul to certain prisoners under one named Julius, a centurion of Augustus's band. And entering into a ship of Adramyttium, we put to sea, meaning to sail by the coast of Asia. One Aristarchus of Macedonia, Thessalonica, being with us. Next bay we touched at Sidon. Julius, courteous of Crete, Paul gave him liberty, going to his friends. And when we had put to sea from there, we sailed under the lee of Cyprus because the winds were contrary. And when we had sailed over the sea of Cilicia and Pamphylia, we came to Myra, the city of Lycia. And there the centurion found a ship of Alexandria sailing to Italy, so he put us on board. And when we had sailed slowly many days, and scarcely were come off Cnidus, the wind not permitting us, we sailed under the lee of Crete off Salmone, and passing it with difficulty came to a place which is called Fair Havens, near to which was the city of Lycia. Now when much time was spent, sailing was now dangerous because of the fast was already past. Paul admonished them, saying, and said unto them, Sirs, I perceive that this voyage will be with much injury, much damage, not only of the cargo and ship, but also of our lives. Nevertheless, the centurion believed the master and the owner of the ship more than the things which are spoken of Paul. Why would he do that? Paul at best was a tent maker. He wasn't a sailor. These guys were sailors. They know their stuff. They're not saved, but they know their stuff. And then we go on. They did hit some real bad stuff. When the ship was struck into the quicksand, Verse 21, after being so long without food, Paul stood forth in the midst of them, saying, Sirs, ye should have hearkened unto me, and not have loosed from Crete to have gained this harm and loss. Now I exhort you, all be of good cheer, for there shall be no loss of any man's life among you, but only of this ship. For there stood by me this night an angel of God, whose I am, and whom I serve, saying, Fear not, Paul, thou must be brought before Caesar, and lo, God has given thee all them that sail with you. Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer. I believe God that it shall be even as it was told me. However, we must cast upon a certain island. And when the 14th night was come, and we were driven up and down in Adria, about midnight, the sailors deemed that they drew near to some country, found it 20 fathoms. When they got a little further, sounded again, found it 15 fathoms, and fearing lest we should fall upon rocks, they cast 4 anchors out of the stern and wished for the day. And as the sailors were about to flee out of the ship, when they had let down the boat into the sea under the pretense as though they would have cast anchors out of the foreship, Paul said to the centurion and the soldiers, Except you abide in the ship, you can't be saved. Who is this Paul giving orders here? I'm sure that's what they thought. Paul, you're a prisoner. If they knew Paul a little better, they knew that he was a Jesus freak. He was talking about Jesus everywhere he went. And he really didn't have a real job. He just did tent making on the side. Before that, he was a Pharisee of Pharisees. Paul, what do you know about sailing? Here they listened, and they were saved. You know what? I don't blame the sailors first blush. They were children of God. They were lost people. But you know what? Why wouldn't the children of God understand this? That even a person that by society's standard is less qualified, but being a child of God, may get from God what truly does work rather than what doesn't work. Our religion, our faith, and medical situations, do they overlap? Does our Christian faith and our medical situations overlap? Miss Sandy? Or are they as separate as church and state, like they define it today?
Nothing's separate from our faith.
Nothing is separate from our faith. Our faith is all-encompassing. Our faith isn't what the world defines as you do and say and practice what you want on Sunday in the church, but when you get out, this is our game. This is our place. This is real life. No. Our faith is consuming. It's all-inclusive. So whether we are sick or whether we are healthy, whether it's talking about eternal things or whether it's talking about physical things, God is still in charge. God still can. God still cares. God still hears. God can, if He so chooses, heal. His way. We've been told that the consequences of sin can have effects on our health. Right? If the consequences of sin are death, how does that flesh out? Or does it only flesh out on Judgment Day?
There's a death here too, because you look at people who sin heavily over and over and they're not saved and they seem empty. It's a death of self.
Death of the soul. On occasion, we watch TV at night. It's kind of an understatement. Patty and I usually watch some sort of cooking show together, or here lately it's a flipping show. And they have commercials about the HIV virus. You know who gets the HIV virus? Homosexuals. And, don't just take my word for it, because they have homosexuals on the commercial playing it, or really are it. I'm sure they really are, because homosexuals talk different, they walk different, they act different, they sound different. It's like God reconnects some cells in their brain, and they are different. And they contract AIDS. Boy, that's big. That's a consequence of sin. That's at least one. And that's not the only one. It's one of the real visible ones. So, what medicine fixes the consequence of sin? I'm going to say this kind of boldly, because I think this is what God told me. When your illnesses are the consequences of sin, and you go to a godless doctor and he prescribes medicine, you only compound the issue. You won't solve it. Isn't that what we read in the Old Testament first two cases?
That's what you read at the end of an ad for medicine too, is the side effects.
I was reading on one, I forget what it was. They were taking it for something that says, this is known to produce some blood clots that actually ended in death. What in the world? If our illness is the result of sin and its consequences, when we go to a godless doctor for a prescription, we only compound the issue. So, if you happen to go to an unsaved doctor, would he even understand that except maybe in the grossest situation, that maybe the illness that you have is the consequence of sin in your life? If you go to a lost doctor, would he ever wow, I bet this is because of some sin in your life? Oh, no. No. Now, how many Christian doctors go to God first? How many Christian doctors, maybe this is unrealistic. If it is unrealistic, I think it's only because it's never practiced. How many of y'all know a Christian doctor? I know a Christian doctor. I know a couple. Do they, when they see another child of God, come in to their office, say, Lord, give me insight to this, that I might know how to treat them like you would? Now that might be a presumption that's false. Maybe those doctors with every Christian, I say Christian one because I don't think God involves himself in a lost person's life like he does a saved person's life. Maybe that doctor has some discernment from the Lord to go ahead and do that with them too. I don't know, but I'm saying among Christians. Do you think a Christian doctor stops, pauses in prayer before he actually goes to see and listens and see what's going on? To see what God might tell him? Isn't that what Isaiah did? Isaiah got from God before he spoke a remedy to Hezekiah. Did Isaiah get it on his own? Hey, you know what? I got some figs in my boiling pot. We'll just see if those work. Or did Isaiah get something specifically from God? Figs, pot, put it on his boil. He'll get 15 more years. He got it from God. Do we? Do we even seek God? I don't know what the doctors do, but we're not bound by the doctors. We run our own life. We can seek the Lord first. Should we get care from unsaved doctors? You know what I'm saying in all this? We ought to seek the Lord first. Should doctors, Christian doctors, prescribe anything without seeking the Lord first? I'm saying you and I should seek the Lord first. If our medical ailment is rooted in sin, the medicines will only compound the problem. If God intends for us to go through that trial, I believe again, medicines will only compound the issue. And sometimes the compounded issue is the hundreds and thousands of dollars of bills left for the person that's left alive after you died on your appointed day anyway. Do we realize we have an appointed day? We will not die early. We will not die late. And if we've gone down an unverified path by God telling us to, all we've done is left that compounded problem to those left behind. So, are you suggesting goodbye all doctors and medicines? I'm suggesting seek God first. You know, there's a lot of people on a lot of medicines right now. What are they supposed to do? You know, because they will say that they will probably die if they stop taking them all. You know, blood thinner medicines and all. You can't get off those. You're on it for life. Who told them that? The godless doctors that got them on it in the first place? Do we realize we're going to die anyway? If we're going to die anyway, why is it that big a deal if someone tells us we might die if we get off them? And if we seek the Lord and He tells us to get off them, all we can hear is that godless doctor. You're going to die if you get off these. You're going to die if you get off these. You can't get off these. You know how many people get better when they get off them? All I'm saying is seek the Lord first and turn off the godless inputs, even when it applies to medicines. Does it matter if the doctor was saved or not? Man, think through it. An unsaved doctor, does he seek the Lord in our behalf? You know what we could do? We could find a saved doctor and ask him to seek the Lord first before he comes up with a treatment. Couldn't we do that? Shouldn't a saved doctor get it? And you seek the Lord and hear what God says. Am I saying anyone who did the chemo path and got well is godless? All I'm asking is if they sought the Lord first. I don't believe the Lord will give us the same answer. I don't believe figs on a boil will be the same answer every time. Jesus used spit and clay sometimes. That doesn't make any sense either. It doesn't matter whether it makes medical sense or not. It matters if God said or not. And go that route. You know, if we or anyone else would say to do that, you know what they would say? That's ridiculous. There's a lot of people who say that if we just go to the Lord and ask for His answer on these things, that it's a ridiculous path. If I were to be thinking like I've been thinking for this message and that person were to say it's ridiculous to go to the Lord, I would just tell them, you just go ahead and take your medicines. As for me and my house, I'm going to trust the Lord. You know, in my with Patty because she's the medical doctor of the family. When I get sick, she asks me, do you want ibuprofen, or sometimes I pull my back bad. Do you want some stuff? I said, nope, don't want it now. But there's a point at which I feel it's right. And then I do. I don't take medicines very often. On occasion I do. Used to never. I say never. There's where Dad did. But if I don't seek the Lord, how in the world will I know when and when not to by His direction? The coronavirus. There's a lot of unknowns about it. Where it came from, when it started, how it's transmitted. Fact is, people do get sick. And the coronavirus, there's about 1% that get real sick. It's about 1% what the studies are out now. 99% recover. 1% get sick and real sick, and in that percentage, some of those die. Like any other illness, right? Does the common flu kill people? Does a car accident kill people? There's a lot of ways to go out, including the coronavirus. They are coming up with some potential vaccines. They already tried one out in Brazil. You know what? The person died from it. Oops. Should we take the vaccine if it comes out? I think you should seek the Lord first. That's what I think you should do. That's what I'm going to do. I already happen to know my answer. Do you know yours? For any vaccine, the godless doctors of the world saying that you must have. If you're going to ask me, I think there's some you should take for the children. But it's not my child anymore. It's yours. Seek. Don't just make the decisions without Him. Ask Him. And get His direction on it. And go as carefully as you can in life, knowing that you sought the Lord every day for everything. And you know what? What if your child dies? We all die. But as Christians, we all live forever. Would it be a tragedy if one of our children, because the world said you were stupid, happened to die what they called an early death? Wait a second. We lost sight of eternity right then. We lost sight of eternity. Because it won't be the last we see them. In fact, my guess is that if we would seek the Lord more, we would take less medications, and we would live better and live longer. We can see it in the world around us going the other direction and how they were worse for it. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6. What an appropriate verse. Medicines, sicknesses, illnesses, heart attack, etc. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not unto your own understanding. Wait until medicine is advanced enough. Wait. That might be in the modern translation. It's not in mine. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths. Except when it comes to health issues. No. Even including health issues. Boy, this is so far off mainstream ideology about life. It may be really perceived as extreme. It's regular in scriptures for God's children. And I believe God, the great physician, you know what? God would be the great physician even if he didn't call himself that. But he calls himself that. And I do think that it's not just because medicine wasn't advanced enough yet. I think it's because he is, he's the one we're trusting to show the world we are his. And he is ours. Supernatural God. The apple of his eye. I think so. Miss Sandy, you and I are getting there closer, quicker. What will it be? Seek the Lord. Find his answers. Go his way. Glorify him.